Procrustes, the name comes from ancient Greek mythology, which means the stretcher. It was the creature of this name who would capture people and would stretch or shorter them according to fit his iron bed perfectly. And there's the name of the work, The Bed of Procrustes. And now I'm going to go through the philosophical and practical aphorisms, and neither I'm going to explain it to you, I'm just going to read it. So let's start it. The person you are the most afraid to contradict is yourself. An idea starts to be interesting when you get scared of taking it to its logical conclusion. To bankrupt a fool, give him information. In science, you need to understand the world. In business, you need others to misunderstand it. I suspect that they put Socrates to death because there is something terrible, unattractive, alienating, and non-human in thinking with too much clarity. Work destroys your soul by stealthily invading your brain during the hours not officially spent working. Be selective about profession. Using as an excuse others' failure of common sense is in itself a failure of common sense. Don't talk about progress in terms of longevity, safety, or comfort before comparing zoo animals to those in the wilderness. Procrastination is the soul rebelling against entrapment. Nobody wants to be perfectly transparent, not to others, certainly not to himself. When we want to do something while unconsciously certain to fail, we seek advice so we can blame someone else for the failure. It is harder to say no when you really mean it than when you don't. Never say no twice if you mean it. Your reputation is harmed the most by what you say to defend it. The most painful moments are not those we spend with uninteresting people. Rather, they are those spent with uninteresting people trying hard to be interesting. Hatred is love with a typo somewhere in the computer code. Correctable but very hard to find. We ask why is he rich or poor, not why is not he richer or poorer. Why is the crisis so deep, not why is not it deeper. Usually what we call a good listener is someone with skillfully polished indifference. It is easier to fast than diet. The opposite of success is not failure, it is name dropping. Quit revealing of human preferences that more suicides come from shame or loss of financial and social status than medical diagnosis. What fools call waste of time is most often the best investment. You can tell how uninteresting a person is by asking him who he finds interesting. Who do you find interesting? People focus on role models. It is more effective to find anti-models, people you don't want to resemble when you grow up. It seems that it is the most unsuccessful people who give most advice, particularly for writing and financial matters. Over the long term, you are more likely to fool yourself than others. There are two types of people. Those who try to win and those who try to win arguments. They are never the same. People usually apologize so they can do it again. The three most harmful addictions are heroin, carbohydrates, and a monthly salary. My only measure of success is how much time you have to kill. Men destroy each other during war, themselves during peacetime. For a classicist, a competitive athlete is painful to look at, trying hard to become an animal rather than a man. He will never be as fast as a cheetah or as strong as an ox. Skills that transfer, street fights, off-pass hiking, seduction, broad erudition. Skills that don't, school, games, sports, laboratory words reduced and organized. Every social association that is not face to face is injurious to your health. It is much less dangerous to think like a man of action than to act like a man of thoughts. What I learned on my own, I still remember. We unwittingly amplify commonalities with friends, dissimilarities with strangers, and contrasts with enemies. Many are so unoriginal they study history to find mistakes to repeat. You want to be yourself, idiosyncratic. The collective, school, rules, jobs, technology wants you generic to the point of castration. Unless we manipulate our surroundings, we have as little control over what and whom we think about as we do over the muscle of our heart. Mirror it again. Unless we manipulate our surroundings, we have as little control over what and whom we think about as we do over the muscles of our heart. The tragedy is that much of what you think is random is in your control, and what's worse, the opposite. You can only convince people who think they can benefit from being convinced. Even the cheapest misers can be generous with advice. Even the cheapest misers can be generous with advice. There are those who will thank you for what you gave them and others who will blame you for what you did not give them. The difference between magnificence and arrogance is in what one does when nobody is looking. English does not distinguish between arrogant up, irrelevance toward the temporarily powerful, and arrogant down, direct at the small guy. When conflicted between two choices, take neither. For the robust, an error is information. For the fragile, error is an error. They agree that chess training only improves chess skills, but disagree that classroom training almost only improves classroom skills. Games were created to give non-heroes the illusion of winning. In real life, you don't know who really won or lost. Expect too late, but you can tell who is heroic and who is not. I suspect that IQ, CAT, and school grades are tests designed by nerds, so they can get high scores in order to call each other intelligent. Happiness, we don't know what it means, how to measure it, or how to reach it, but we know extremely well how to avoid unhappiness. It takes a lot of intellect and confidence to accept that what makes sense does not really make sense. What they call risk, I call opportunity, but what they call low risk opportunity, I call sucker problem. You can be certain that the head of a corporation has a lot to worry about when he announces publicly that there is nothing to worry about. The curious mind embraces science, the gifted and sensitive the arts, the practical business. The leftover becomes an economist. The only definition of alpha male is if you try to be an alpha male, you will never be one. Those who have nothing to prove never say that they have nothing to prove. According to Lucian of Samosata, the philosopher Demonach stopped a Spartan from beating his servant. You are making him your equal, he said. The classical man's worst fear was inglorious death. The modern man's worst fear is just death. When someone says, I am not that stupid, it often means that he is more stupid than he thinks. Half the people live with their lips, the other half, half the people lie with their lips, the other half with their tears. Marriage is the institutional process of feminizing men and feminizing women. These are all the aphorisms I mentioned, but I want to tell you that if you found these aphorisms amusing, very interesting, then I highly recommend you to read his work, because there are many more things I simply did not written down because it would be just ridiculous, and then I had to read the entire book. So there are many couple critical things and his thoughts I will just leave as a gold nugget for you to swallow. And yeah, pretty much this is it. Hit the like button if you like this video, and if you have not subscribed already, subscribe and maybe share it with your friends. See you.